Hey y'all, welcome to week 3. This has been a busy week. I got my office done, which has been a really good feeling. I've been super productive and super busy this week. I leave tomorrow to join Everett at Boy Scout camp. It's actually my 5th summer going to Atro Bartle Boy Scout camp with Everett, which I feel like always makes me nostalgic and giggle and super reflective for like lots of different reasons. But I think the first thing is the funny thing about middle age or 41 or this era of life that I'm in right now are the moments where you're like, this is kind of funny that this is who I became. And the fact that I am not just a Boy Scout mom, but I have been a leader in my son's troop way back during the pack days, meaning during Cub Scout days. And it makes me giggle because although loving nature, it was not necessarily in my nature to be a camper or adventurous. I was just very much raised in a household that it's just not what we did. We were a comfort family. We lived out in the country a little bit, but like in a very bougie kind of neighborhood. And so it's funny to me that I now can go spend the next 5 nights, I think actually, sleeping in a tent that is literally like a canvas flap over a wooden pallet with 2 cots. That's it. And the bathrooms are what we call lollies. They're just holes in the ground. I don't know. Never in 5 million years did I think I would be this mom. But isn't that like the funny thing about parenting is when you're like super in it and you're engaged. And here's the thing: when I lost Jeremy, Everett was my reason, right, to keep going and to pull myself out of the grief and to find a reason. He was my reason, right? And so when opportunities arose, I feel like sometimes it just fell in my lap, like it was God's way of being like, here's your next step. And being the den leader for his den starting in 1st grade, I would lead 14 boys on hikes and taught them how to tie knots after I watched the YouTube videos and learned how to do it all. Anyways, it's just crazy. It's just crazy to me. And what's even more wild to me is I am excited to go tomorrow. Boy Scout camp is a place where I truly just get to unplug, as silly as that sounds, but somebody else has organized the meals, although they are less than 5-star quality meals in the dining hall, but somebody else is in charge. Somebody else is in charge of the schedule. Like, I just get to kind of go and like be this support person to not only my son, but like all these boys. I don't know. I love it. And some of those parents have become really good friends, pretty constant. I'm fortunate that my best friend Kathy, her son is a grade below Everett, and so we've gotten to go together the past couple of years, and it's just no electronics, no like you unplug, and it is glorious. But on top of that, we actually come home one night early from camp to leave to go back to Tybee Island, Georgia, which is right by Savannah, where Jeremy and I lived, for an annual trip that we do. So it's just been a lot this week of like trying to organize my house. Todd and I are still merging things, the new romance, where I will get to all the stories about Todd later, but we're still merging households and figuring out all that. And if there's one thing I learned early on in my adulthood, it is that when my life is chaotic, I need order in my house. And it has not been possible. But slowly but surely it's coming together. My office is done. I absolutely love it. It's like my office / Peloton studio. I'm an avid cyclist and have been for about 15 years. And so my Peloton has been my source of sanity for a long time. And so it's like this space that's mine. And it's great. It's wonderful. Anyways, I divulge. So the funny thing is, the very first year that I ever went to this camp, it's typically 10 days that you go. So 9 nights, 10 days. And I was terrified. I would like panic buy stuff in the middle of the night. for like weeks leading up to this camp out. I just did not enjoy it. I don't know how to say it other than that. I had taken the boys, we had gone to another great Boy Scout camp that we have near us called Camp Nash for Cub Scout camp, and I never enjoyed that. And maybe it's just because the boys were so much younger and I really was responsible for them, and that was a lot of pressure sometimes. But that first year that I went to Bartle particularly, because I was so in my head about it being 10 days and I was just going to be miserable, right? And I would lay in bed at night and I would think to myself about Jeremy going to basic training. And I giggle about that because infantry basic training in the Army is very different than Atro Bartle Boy Scout camp in the middle of Missouri. They're very different. I know this. But in my mind, there was like this part of me that was like, if Jeremy can survive basic training, I can survive 10 days at Bartle. And I think about that every time I go. I think about how much I have grown as a person and how much being a Boy Scout mom has taught me. And it is a role I had never desired. I never thought I would become. I never coveted this role. But man, I'm incredibly thankful for it. And isn't that kind of like the crazy thing about where life takes you, right? And the power of choosing, right? Like I could have gone to Bartle that first year and in my mind the whole time just been like, this is miserable, this is miserable. But the nature of me is like pure optimism, right? So if I'm going to go, I'm going to make the best of it. And I had a fantastic bunkmate, Liz. That summer we didn't even know each other, and then we ended up spending the whole time together. I probably wouldn't have survived it without her. She's still a friend. And the other dads, like it was fun. And there was a moment halfway through where I was like, this isn't so bad. And watching the boys, man, it's just fun. So I'm excited to go tomorrow, but the packing and the organizing and all the things, it's just been really, really busy. So strangely though, I was thinking, man, I got to record my podcast before I go. And last week I was like, really didn't want to do it. And today I'm like excited. It's just a funny emotional thing, like pouring your heart out like this. I'm not gonna lie. I had therapy this week with Ashley and we spent the whole time talking about how scary and vulnerable this is and how I can handle this while staying authentic to myself. That's like a big thing is like, I really don't want to lose sight of my why behind doing this. And it's really just to tell the story. Because in unpacking pieces of my childhood, we have discovered that there is a part of me that found a lot of courage and hope in stories. And there was such a light bulb that went off for me when Ashley and I figured that out in a session, because I was like, oh my God, yes. And I think this is why I've always enjoyed telling stories and wanting to be a storyteller is I just want my story, I don't know, to maybe give somebody else hope, or I don't even know. I don't know what I want my story to do. I just feel like I'm supposed to tell my story. So anyways, let me get back to the story of Jeremy and I. Because there's this part, I was talking about it today before we recorded with my producer about where I wanted to take today. And he's like, babe, you're going to figure this out. It'll be fine. And I left with the, epic story of me getting arrested that January after we started dating and Jeremy's first proposal. And it's ironic because the next few months are kind of a blur for him and I as far as like our relationship and dating. It was just great, and not a lot of specifics to talk about other than he was doing his school thing in Warrensburg and I was doing my school thing up in Liberty, Missouri, and we would talk all the time and we would see each other when we could and all the things. And, I talked about how I was a pretty good student and I continued to be a good student. Jeremy, on the other hand, was not. And so he struggled, and not because he wasn't smart. That's the thing that him and I would talk a lot about later in life, if that makes any sense. Jeremy was actually wicked smart. Later on when I was in nursing school and he would help me study with nursing school, I would almost get frustrated because he would catch on to stuff before I would. And I was supposed to be the smart one. So it wasn't that he wasn't smart. I think it was almost like an academic confidence. He'd just been kind of that boy that didn't love school. And all he wanted to do was be in the military. And there was a part of him that knew he did not have to go to college to do that. So he got done with that first semester, and it was his grades were not good. And that was hard because he was on an ROTC scholarship of some sort. And it's funny, I don't remember the specifics of it. I just know that his grades weren't good. And like maybe it was like there was discussion of putting him on academic probation or something. I don't really remember, but it was like early on in the summer, maybe end of May, beginning of June, and his parents decided that they were going to go on a trip, probably to visit his brother or something. I don't even remember, but they were leaving Jeremy home alone after his first year of college because he had to work. We were both lifeguarding again that summer, and so he had to work, so Jeremy got left home alone. And like most college kids are going to do when their parents go out of town and leave them home alone, Jeremy decided to host a gathering. And not like a huge party. It was maybe like 10 of our good buddies came over that night. But here's the thing, Jeremy's, my parents, when I got arrested and found out I got a minor in possession of alcohol, were like, thank God somebody got Colleen to loosen up. Jeremy came from a family where like alcohol is not even at their holiday functions still. Like they're a strict Baptist household, and drinking is bad for them. I don't want to say bad, but it just, especially underage drinking was not something that would have been okay. So anyways, we hosted this party. I helped him clean up the next day. It was a good gathering. The friends that were there, we still joke about some of the stuff that happened that night. Nothing was too crazy. Nobody got arrested. Nobody got hurt. But, there was alcohol there, and it's just not a good choice. It's not respectful on our part for sure, but it is what it is. So then when we got done, I remember saying to Jeremy, because we had some leftover beer, and I said, do not leave that leftover beer in your college fridge. He had in his bedroom over the summer, his like dorm fridge. I said, don't leave it there. Your mom's going to come down and put root beer, because Peggy is a great mom. Your mom's going to come down and put root beer in your fridge, and she's going to find it. He's like, nah, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay. Well, lo and behold, what happened? Jeremy left the beer in the college fridge, and Peggy came down to put root beer in there and found the leftover alcohol from the party. And his parents put that together with the fact that when they came home, they found one of our good friend Chris, his hat in the microwave. I don't remember that part. I don't know why it was there, but there were just some odd things, and they confronted Jeremy, and I wasn't there. So there's this part of me that wants to be respectful of this story because I wasn't there. I wasn't a part of it, but and I think of it from a parent standpoint now, and like I would be really mad at Jeremy if I were Bob and Peggy. So like I kind of get it, but for lack of better words, like shit hit the fan. Things blew up. It blew up about how poorly Jeremy had done in school, how irresponsible he was. Jeremy kind of blew up about how he didn't even want to be in college. All he wanted to do was be in the military, blah, blah, blah. And it was intense. It was really intense. And I remember kind of getting a SOS phone call from Jeremy that was like, I need to talk with you. Come meet me. And so we went. Jeremy grew up in a lake community. So we went down. And I remember sitting on a bench at the lake, and Jeremy just really kind of pouring his heart out about who he wanted to be as a man. And I knew so little about what it meant to be in the military at this stage of my life. I mean, so little that all I could do was sit there and listen to him. And, you know, he had become the sun and the moon for me over those 7 or 8 months that we had been dating. And all I could think to myself was like, you just need, you know, you be who you want to be, and I'm going to love you no matter what you do. And Jeremy was like, well, I've always wanted to be an Army Ranger. It's, you know, it's actually like better if you're not an officer. I don't want to say better. It's a different route. And he's like, I really, I can enlist, and this is what I want to do. And I was like, then why aren't you? And you know, to Jeremy's credit, to try to make his parents happy. And that was the man that he was. He was a good man. So, you know, Jeremy went and talked to a recruiter, and I remember I had gotten a job at our local hospital, one of the local hospitals, and I was working, and he called and he's like, they've offered me a different type of contract. And I was like, you know, that's not what you want though. And I was like, anyways, so he ended up getting a, what at the time was called a RIP contract. So to go into the Ranger Battalion, but he would be delayed. He wouldn't leave until October. And I feel like this was around June that this was all happening. So, and his parents were not happy. They just weren't happy with him. And I don't blame them for that, right? Like, enlisted guys have a completely different statistical survival rate, right? Like, there's just so many parts of it. So Jeremy enlisted, that summer, and, he was going to leave for basic training in October. And I just remember these two kids, right? And we were still lifeguarding together, and, gosh, we were as inseparable as we could be. But like this black cloud kind of came over us of the fact that I was going to stay in college and Jeremy was leaving. And, it feels like a country song or a Nicholas Sparks book when I think of this summer. Like we were so intensely in love. Like we could talk about everything and anything, and our fears and like all these things, and our hopes and our desires for what the future should look like. And I remember like one night just being like, we should just get married. Like we should just get married, because by the time you're done with all your training, because he was going to have like, he would have basic training, advanced infantry training, airborne school, and then what was called RIP at the time. So he had probably about 6 months of training before he was going to be done and find out where he was officially going to be stationed, which would be towards the end of my second year of college, which for a bachelor's of science in nursing would be a very ideal time for me to transfer schools. So at some point we had come up with this idea that we should just get married at the point that he got done with this training. Which I am a helpless romantic. I 100% get that from my dad, which is just ironic. But we landed on this idea one night we were talking, and I was excited about it. And then I went home and I thought about it. You guys, keep in mind, I was this type A that my whole life was planned out, right? And all of a sudden I had met this man that I'm agreeing to get married to before I've even finished college, and I'm going to move across the country away from my family, and what the hell? What am I thinking, right? So, yeah, I remember I changed my mind. And I needed to tell Jeremy this, right? I needed to tell Jeremy that I had changed my mind, that even though I wanted to stay with him and be with him and support him during this journey, I just wasn't ready to get married at that point. And so I remember he picked me up for a date, and I was nauseous, physically ill, because I was going to have to tell him that I had changed my mind. And he picked me up, and we're going. And he's like, what is wrong with you? He immediately knew the moment I got in the car that something was wrong. And he turned white as a ghost. And he told me later, he's like, I was convinced you were breaking up with me. I was like, well, no, I was just calling off our unengagement, our marriage. I told him, I said, Jeremy, I want to be with you forever. I broke down. I broke down and I was like, oh my God, I want to be with you. I want to follow you. I want to help you. I want to support you. But I want to be a nurse too. And I can't sacrifice who I am to be with you and blah, 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 blah. And I just remember Jeremy, like, as I'm like emotionally unloading all these things on him, like watching him. And there was a moment where he went from fear to almost like humor, which was Jeremy's MO in a lot of ways, right? Like, and relief. I think I can look back and see it as relief now. And so he said, and he just gives me this big old hug and helps me like catch my breath and calm down. Cause I mean, I was pretty upset. Like it was so hard for me to just tell him that I couldn't do that. And he just looked at me and said, babe, as long as you're going to love me through this, we will be fine. And I was like, of course I'm going to love you through this. I'm going to love you forever and for always, blah, blah, blah. And so we were good. And we went about our summer. And I think of that summer so fondly. Like we had this group, like core group of people that we spent the summer with that, you know, I still keep in touch with some of them. Adam is one of them that I talked about that was with me the night we got arrested. Like we had some good parties, nothing crazy. Like we were pretty good kids, despite there being underage drinking sometimes. Part of it was I was pretty cautious because, you know, you get arrested once, hopefully you learn your lesson a little bit. And Jeremy also could not get into any trouble or else, you know, he would not be able to go to the military. So we had a great summer, just spent so much time together. We lifeguarded together. We spent a ton of time at the lake that he grew up on. His parents had a boat and it was great. It was amazing. But as the summer came to an end, there was like, just this, like the black cloud got darker. And I remember kind of coming up with this idea that we were each going to plan like a special date for the other person. And we were going to, before Jeremy left for the military. And I don't remember which one was first, but I'm going to tell you about Jeremy's date first. Jeremy's date was so cute. He took us back to Buca de Beppo's where we had gone on our first date. I ate capers again, which I thoroughly enjoyed, and we walked around, and then he pulled out a ring. And I remember kind of panicking because I was like, no, Jeremy, I told you we can't get engaged. I can't get married. And he said, no, I know you said that, but I didn't want to leave without leaving you with something. So he pulled out this ring, and it was a promise ring. It was a beautiful amethyst with some diamonds around it. That purple was my favorite color, and so he did that. And on the inside of the band, he had faith, hope, and love engraved on the ring, which is to this day my like life Bible verse. You know, God gave us faith, hope, and love, but the greatest of these is love. And I've tried so hard to live by that, right? Choose love, stay classy and choose love. So yeah, and I just remember kind of being like, I don't know, cloud nine, floating around. Don't remember much the rest of the date, but it was like fantastic. The ring was entirely too big, like slid off my finger too big. And so when we went to go get it resized, they're like, we can easily resize this, but the engraving is going to be messed up. And the middle part of it was hope. And he's like, so that word is going to almost be eliminated. That's how big the ring was. And I remember looking at Jeremy and being like, oh my God, I feel like this is like a sign from God that as long as we keep our faith and we keep love, we don't have to hope when it comes to him and I. Yeah, and Jeremy just looked at me grinning, and it was just like great, kind of like scary, beautiful time. It was funny. And then came my date. And I'm giggling because I think of this now, and this is just such a like, I don't know, like just like speaks to the youthfulness, like the still, I don't want to say immaturity because it's just, I almost want to say like innocence to our love story at this stage of life. Like it would just still being kids at heart, but having all these like grown up feelings for each other. So I somehow like I got us a night at the Great Wolf Lodge. Which is like, I don't know, it's close to where we grew up, and it's this indoor water park with hotels. It's a hotel. And it's nice. It's pretty nice. And so, and I just giggled because we went to the water park that day and we just played. And that was the thing with Jeremy and I. It was like we went down all the water slides, and for hours, we just ran around the water park like a couple of kids and played. And then we walked to, I think it was like Longhorn Steakhouse or something for dinner, because Jeremy loves steak, so I was going to buy him a steak for dinner. And then I told him that he needed to like kill a little bit of time before he came back to the hotel room. And so I had purchased some adult sleeping wear to wear for him. And so I had another friend that worked at CVS that had a friend that bought us a bottle of champagne, and I brought rose petals, and I covered the bed in rose petals, and I had champagne. And Jeremy came back when he was supposed to come back, and I remember hearing him start to open the door, and I totally panicked, like 100% panicked, like, oh my God, what am I doing? And went and like hid. I literally hid. I hid behind the couch or something. I just felt so awkward. Like there was no strong, like grown-up sexiness to me at this stage of life. There was this innocent awkwardness, but yet such a pure romance to what Jeremy and I had. And Jeremy came in and he just laughed. And it was like one look and everything was fine. Like any discomfort or anything, it just was great. And we had a great night, and it was super special. And, but like, it's just funny to me, right? Like that, like one date you have a promise ring being given, and then the next day you're at a water park together, and these are the romantic dates that we planned for each other. And it just, I don't know, it makes me smile, because that was also like how Jeremy just pushed me to enjoy life, right? Like be less serious all the time. And I kind of needed that, and maybe he needed a little more serious in his life, right? Like, and we really loved each other for it. And it was great. And I remember the next morning we left, and he was leaving soon after the Great Wolf Lodge night, like maybe like within a week or something, like really soon. And we went to grab breakfast at Panera, and we went and we got breakfast, and we sat down at the table, and this old man came up to us, and he just looked at us, and Jeremy goes, "Can I help you, sir? Is something wrong?" And he looked at us, and he got emotional. This old man like got teary-eyed, and he looked at us and he said, "I've been a pastor for 35 years. I don't remember the number, but it had been a long time. And it is rare that I see a couple with love as innocent and pure as the two of you. God bless you." And he just walks off. He just walked off. And I remember looking at Jeremy and just being like, was that an angel? Like, was that an angel that just came to tell us, like it's gonna be okay? Like, this is really scary. Like, you're going to go do something really big and brave for our country, and I've decided to love you through it, and I have no idea what I'm signing up for to love you through it. But if we just keep that faith and the love together, like, we're gonna make it work. It was so special. And like, I can think of it. I can think of that moment and the man and the calmness that brought me in that, because I was so scared. I was so scared about Jeremy leaving and all the things. I was, Black Hawk Down had just come out. I actually think I saw Black Hawk Down with Jeremy, which was a terrible idea, because Black Hawk Down is Ranger Battalion with Delta Force in that movie. Like, what? This is what the love of my life is going to go do for his profession? No way. Yeah, I was scared. love Jeremy on this one, but there's something about that man telling us that, like, that moment where I just had to trust. I had to trust that everything was going to be okay or work out the way it's supposed to, right? I don't know. So, but it was good. And that in some ways, I think of that summer as like the end of my childhood or my youth. Maybe that's the better way to say it. Jeremy left. He left for the military. The following week, I think it was like October 17th. For some reason I'm funny with dates a little bit. And so he left, and man, I was a mess. I was an absolute mess, but I feel like I'm going to tell that story next week. More about that and what that was like to have him leave and what that looked like. But it's funny. I don't know, as I like prepare to go to Boy Scout camp tomorrow, and I end this by telling you Jeremy left for basic training. There's this piece sometimes about the unknown and moving forward, right? Like, I think what Claudia, that student, texted me after the first podcast is like, bravery isn't the absence of fear, right? It is doing something despite fear. And it's interesting to me how telling the stories about this era of my life, there is that underlining current of being brave. And if you had asked me in the time what I was doing, I would just say I'm choosing love. Like I'm choosing love. I'm choosing to love Jeremy. I'm choosing to love Everett and support him by going to Boy Scout camp. I don't know, but there's this piece of me that's like, we get comfortable in life, right? Like, and I think when you're younger, the transitions happen more often. Like things change more often, and you're almost better. You're better because it's changed so much at adapting and being flexible. But the older you get, I think the less big changes happen for you, right? They happen for your kids. They happen, but like for you, maybe not as much. And so there's this part where it's like we get comfortable. And we're no longer being told, hey, your next step is this. Your next step is to go from middle school to high school, or from high school to college, or from high school to the military, or from high school to a job. Like you're no longer being told what your next step is. You all of a sudden you're just thrown into it, and your life is what you make it, right? And sometimes you get comfortable, and that comfort might get to a point where it's no longer satisfying, or it's no longer fulfilling what you need it to do. And I don't know, being brave enough to choose discomfort in order to find the next best thing is fascinating to me. I handed in my teaching laptop today and my badge, and it was definitely a bittersweet moment. Like, I have so much gratitude for this past decade of being a teacher and what it did for me as like a single mom, and being able to balance all the things, and how it allowed my heart to heal while still being so fulfilling, I think will be the most beautiful piece of that decade. But I'm also like still a little scared about going back to nursing, but like super excited. And so there's this part where it's like, I think right now I'm in the stage where I'm embracing the discomfort of the unknown, right? Like, and even going to Boy Scout camp and talking about a story about Jeremy leaving for basic, like those are all really big unknowns in my life. Or even, I think with Boy Scout camp, I almost had like some misnomers about it. Like, this is what I thought it was going to be like. And in all actuality, it's something I ended up really enjoying, right? And so there's just this, I don't know, it's just fascinating going back and telling all these stories, and I can continue to like be amazed by the support and the love. I had a conversation with somebody this week about how I landed on stay classy and choose love. It's funny because at the end of that first episode, that it really did just come out of my mouth. Like, how do I sign off? Because I'm used to speaking in front of people, but I always struggle with the ending. How do you wrap it up? And so I've been really deliberate before I've sat down for the podcast of like, this is how I want to wrap it up. But That first one, I was so nervous that Stay Classy and Choose Love just came out of my mouth. And when we were trying, my producer and I were trying to come up with a title, that came out. I was like, that's it. That's it. And it's just fun for me, because if I were to tell you the two things that I've really strived to do through my lifetime, it is probably that idea of staying classy, and I'll probably elaborate on what that means more as we continue, and to choose love, right? So anyways, I just appreciate the way you all love me. Y'all have loved me big. And if I don't know you, just thank you anyways for watching this and listening and being supportive. You know, there's this part of me as I reflect on it that giggles, because it's not a Nicholas Sparks book, and it's not a country song. It is my life. It is a beautiful journey that I've been on, and I feel humbled to share it with you, and I appreciate you listening to it. Anyways, I will touch base with you guys after Boy Scout camp, probably from a beachside location down in Georgia. So I'm looking forward to it. In the meantime, y'all stay classy. Choose love.